Weather's been all over the place recently. We've had a little heat wave for a bit, and then it was still warm, although not super hot, but then we had loads of wind with it, and then we've had deluges of rain. But as you can see, we're back to lovely today. How fabulous is this? And I thought, given we are now officially into summer, well, the end of June, I thought it might be a nice time to go around and do a quick update for you. So we'll look at all the things that we've been growing along together and some of the harvests I've been having, and I'll just explain some of what's going on. So for a bit of a change, we're actually going to start in the front garden today. First things first then, let's chat about my dahlias. So I have moved things around this year, as you can probably tell. This is the ones I call Glory because I can't say their name, it's on screen. But you might notice I used to have two of these outside the greenhouse, one on each side. And these are Kate's favourite dahlias. These gorgeous plumpy orange blooms. But as you can see, I've got a third this year because I did that whole thing at the start of this year where I was taking cuttings and some of the dahlias naturally broke. So I've got a third because a tuber broke. Now you're going to notice straight away the difference between these two and that one. And that's all to do with the light levels. So remember last week's video I explained to you about how different parts of the garden get full sun, partial sun, all that kind of thing. Well, these are right here all together. But this little guy was on this side. And he was completely shaded out by this bigger dahlia because he was slightly back a bit. So you can see there was much less growth. He had no buds on him, whereas this guy was rapidly catching up because he was over there. So we've just moved them around. This guy is a bit bigger, so he's still getting a lot of light, and we've moved him forward slightly. But this little guy on this side is now catching up, and he's got his first bud. So yeah, so this is going to look fab. The only thing obviously is they're in full sun for us, so I just need to keep on top of the watering, especially given they're in containers. Now, I'll flip you around. It's not necessarily part of the whole grow along for this year, but I'll just show you what's going on with Kate's planters because there's no cosmos this year. So Kate's planters then, so previous years, this has been where Kate, in fact, the reason Kate built them was when she had all her cosmos, and she had a whole hedge of cosmos here, and it was fabulous. We haven't done any cosmos this year, but also these were full of bulbs, so you know there wasn't space to be going and putting lots of little plants in. But what we did was we filled it with perennials. So what you'll see coming along here is we've got calendula, we've got snapdragons, we've got heuchera, we've got osteopermums, there's a couple of small Rebecca in here that are not quite doing anything yet, and there's Bidens and what have you, plus Kate's favourite alliums are drumstick alliums. So, you know, it's kept a bit of colour throughout the year, which is fabulous. It's what you want. It's all different heights, all different colours, because this is kind of like our boundary between us and our neighbour's garden, but also it's a bit of a barrier because we were finding a lot of folk like posties, delivery men, that kind of thing, were cutting across the gardens, and of course it means cutting across our windows. So it's always changing. But there you go. And of course there's Eli's bit on the side, as Kate called it, and the planter at the head of the driveway. You can see this year, instead of cosmos, Kate very much has gone mad with the calendula this year, and there's just loads of them. So we've got the ones we collected from a friend, and we've got the wee mix that Ian at Grown Local sent us as well, so we've got a bit of variety. But Kate is absolutely loving it, so they're everywhere. The spring bulbs have now passed, because again I had lots of daffodils growing here, and in fact the daffodil that I won the rosette for is actually one that was grown here. It wasn't one of the ones I babysat, it was grown right here in the side bed. So it's looking quite cool. There are a few things in here that aren't sort of fabulous and shown off yet. So things like, I've got some delphiniums in here that are really, really new plants. So it'll be another couple of years before the big tall spikes you're going to see in the back garden. But they're the delphiniums from this year. and some of Kate's hellebore. And again, we've got some stuff happening with that. So this bit here is kind of in transition at the minute, and we're still kind of getting the hang of it because it's a new part. We only built it over the last couple of years, and we're still working out what we're doing as we go. This bit, now you were kind of blocked a little bit at that angle because Newton, the fig tree, is here now. He got moved because he was just so far behind and wasn't getting enough sunshine, so we got moved. But in this little bit, you can see there's more of these lovely calendula. So thank you so much, Ian. We've ended up loving these. But you've got little salvias in here. There's violas. There's kind of a mix of things. And then this. This is our hydrangea paniculata. And it is only starting to get the buds for the flowers on it now. With these kind of flowering plants like this, the more sun it gets, the quicker it comes on. But yeah, that's your garden. You know your garden and how it goes. It's not the end of the world if we have to wait a couple of weeks longer than our neighbours. But that's this little bit. So let's head back into the back garden. Now, I suppose the biggest story for the back garden, hurrah! Garlic's been harvested. You guys probably don't realise this, but so you know how I grow my garlic in pots now. And I had a bundle of pots between the beds, and then I had some grown in the GreenStalks. I hate the whole pots beside the bed. It's great at the start and it's all exciting, but they very quickly start to annoy me, so I'm quite glad the garlic got harvested. I have no mic, so I'm coming close. The garlic in the GreenStalk is huge compared to the tiny little thin snapped stalks. I'm struggling to get them out. Okay, I've put a mic on. The reason I didn't have a mic on is because I just was like, the garlic's going to be pants. Nobody's going to care. I'm just going to go and harvest it. Because part of the thing as well is one day I'm trying to get out the wind. Part of the thing as well is the garlic's been driving me insane. I hate having those pots beside the beds. It's a pain. So I was desperate to harvest them. So, mind blown. Let me explain because this is brilliant. I've got 3 lots for you. So let me show you. Right, let me move things out of the way. Right. Pots behind me. I'm assuming this is elephant garlic because it's all huge. It's also, all of them have got lots of little bulblets have appeared. So let me show you. I dropped one earlier. So they're basically tiny, tiny, tiny babies for next year. Right, so I'm going to collect all these up. That's how like your spring bulbs do that sometimes as well. But look at them. Just in those wee pots. Some of them have the outside skin split because of those bulblets, but it's just the outside skin. So, right, this is the stuff that I think is normal garlic because it's all split into cloves. It's quite big. I'm so chuffed, and there's also some weird and wacky things I'm going to show you. But yeah, I'm dropping it all. Size-wise, I'm pretty happy with that. It's a good mix. There are no really, really small ones. There's a couple have split. But I can show you why, so have a look at this. The thing is, right, it's split, but you can see it's all fine. Nothing's rotten or damaged. There's no ickies in there, right? But what you can see is the bit at the top of the clove. Look, it's like it's tried to grow, but something stopped it, and then that's come out and split the outside skin. Now watch this. Right. So all my garlic is hard neck, right? Which means I should get scapes. And I have had scapes from almost all of them. Didn't have scapes from any of the GreenStalk plants. Didn't have scapes from 2 of these plants. But if you can see, there's a scape just developing at the top here. And I had to peel these leaves back because they were all over it, covering it. And I think that stopped it, well, not developing, I think it stopped it coming out, because it then tried to come out the side of the garlic. Look, that's the scape. I've just split it, but that was it, trying to come out the side. But yeah. Right, so that's the garlic that's in the pots. The GreenStalk. So I told you guys 2 videos ago maybe, I was not expecting much from this at all. In fact, I was ready to bin it. That garlic was the ones that were planted first, and they did amazing. They grew too fast. And then our weather turned and the stalks all got damaged and twisted and snapped. Just a nightmare. So they were really looking rubbish. They were looking really thin, like tiny thin stalks. And I was just like, it's not going to be worth it. But then the other day, well, the other week, we did another storm. And what was grown in the GreenStalk, 3 of them, just the stems completely snapped again. So let me show you. Right, this is the smallest one from the GreenStalk, but you can see, look, it's completely snapped and it's been in the GreenStalk like that for a couple of weeks. It's tiny. The cloves haven't split, but that's fine. We'll just use it in the kitchen. Although there's this big thing about you can store your garlic. I'm trying to defend you from the wind here, so if it's windy, I'm sorry. You can store your garlic and then keep it all through the rest of the year. And, you know, that's awesome. It gives you garlic. But you don't have to. If you just eat it now, it's called green garlic or wet garlic. And a lot of chefs actually prize this stuff. So you can just use it straight out your garden. Right, that's the smallest one. I was saying about how the stalks were snapping. Look, but just look at the size of these. Right, and they're not the biggest ones. So look how rubbish and tiny that stem is. That's an okay stem. But I still got huge garlic out of it from the GreenStalk. You can grow your garlic in the GreenStalk. I was a bit dubious because I noticed a lot of people had videos of them planting the garlic, but I couldn't find much in the way of them harvesting. So this is evidence that you can do it. But if I was to do this again, I would plant it lower down and I would use the supports. I'm blown away. Now I need to tidy up and I need to come up with a way to store these because I wasn't expecting to have any, so I'm not prepared for this at all. It's not bad for some garlic in little pots, is it? Now, I suppose we couldn't not talk about the onions. The onions has been an adventure this year. Now, as you guys know, I've been growing from seed for the last few years because it has been stupendous. The results have been fantastic. The only complaint I had was that my onions were too good. They were too big, and it meant I was constantly having to store chopped onions in the fridge, the freezer, all that kind of thing. And it just was a bit of a pain for cooking. So this year I set myself the challenge that I wanted normal size culinary onions rather than the big huge things. So I changed varieties and I sowed them later. So I changed to Walla Walla as my white onion. I kept Red Baron as my red onion. So we've got a mix in this bed because none of my Walla Walla germinated. It was appalling this year. I had the worst year for germination for everything this year. But what I then did was I bought some sets, some spring planting sets that had been heat treated. Now, the recommendation of those guys is because apparently they don't bolt, or they very rarely bolt, and that had been my previous experience with sets, was they always bolted and it made it a bit pointless. So what we have now, in fact, come in and see. What you can see in here then is I have 2 rows, and these are my red barons, so these were grown from seed. And it's really interesting because look at the difference between these and the sets. Because obviously the sets were further on to start with. So you can see some of them are quite big now. Much bigger than these red barons. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it carries on. Because I do feel a bit weird this year, like I don't know when to expect the harvest. Because I mean, are these guys going to be so much faster than these, or will these catch up? Will I just end up with 2 different harvests? Because I haven't done this seeds and sets comparison, I'm just going to have to wait and see. But so far, so good. Nothing dodgy so far. No signs of bolting yet. We just have to wait. In here, you can see it's very full. I've got broccoli. Broccoli with a K. It's a bit like the tender stem I grew last year. It's one of the broccoli Chinese kale type hybrids. So it's in there, doing really well. You can see how big it is. And I can see some of the first broccoli heads are forming in here. I've also got it going in the GreenStalk, which is dead interesting. Let's have a nosy. Now, obviously, there's lots of back and forward going to happen because I'm growing other things in the GreenStalks, but I'll talk about them when it's the right time, if that makes sense. But for now, lots of broccoli in here. Now, first thing you'll see, there's less leaves because I actually did a bit of a tidy up here yesterday. Problems because you can see they're not netted, so caterpillars and lots of eggs and issues. So that's been trimmed a bit. But generally, you will notice these plants are smaller than the ones in the bed, and that's to be expected. When you do container gardening, when you grow in pots and planters and, well, containers, not big planters like mine, but you know, smaller ones, your plants generally will be a little bit smaller and they will grow a little bit slower or be a little bit behind than those that you would have planted in the ground. But they'll still grow, they'll still be fabulous. And as you saw from the other year, I'll still get harvests. So yeah, now I'm going to come back because I've got other stuff like tomatoes and what have you going on, and I'll tell you about the tomatoes here in a second. But I'm going to take you to that end of the garden. I'm going to do squash and courgettes because some fun to tell you about. So I've already shown you, but what I'm doing is I'm tying them into these stakes I've got to try and keep them upright, because these types of plants will kind of fall over and start almost growing like a vine, but on the ground. And I just want to keep them upright to make it a bit more manageable, because I do a lot of pruning and a lot of trimming because I have problems with powdery mildew in my garden. Not just with these types of plants, with all sorts of plants. It's just one of the things. And also it makes it a bit easier to keep the fruits off the ground that way. But I'm quite happy to say I'm starting to get some fruits on them. You'll find if you ever grow courgettes and squash and that type of thing, there's a weird thing happens right at the start of the year where you get like either all female or all male flowers, and it takes a wee bit of time for that to balance, and it's really annoying because you don't get any fruit when it's like that. So I'm quite chuffed to see that I'm starting to get some fruit, and I'm at the point now where I am starting to just help it along and do a wee bit of hand pollination. But yeah, but this weekend it's been about just carrying on the tying in along the sticks. But yeah, quite excited. Now obviously you can't miss these guys, you've seen them in previous videos, but these tall delphiniums, so this one, the one at the back is now the flowers have passed, but I've got these 2 blue ones, there's a light blue on that side, there's a white on that side, and I've got some smaller dark purple ones. These are 2 or 3 years old, so the slightly shorter are a couple of years old. These ones are 3 years old, and I've got much smaller ones like this one, and there's a couple there. These are the ones from seeds from this year. So the thing with the delphiniums I've found is you don't get that big glorious massive flower stalk like this in the first year. It takes a few years for them to bed in, grow, get all the roots in order and get settled, so that you then get these huge big plants. But I absolutely love these guys. They're some of my favourites. But just remember, guys, stake them because the wind will trash them if you don't. Oh yeah, in case you're wondering, Mystery Dahlia, it's got its own pot here this time. It's another one I've got a spare because I did all that propagation. Another Mystery Dahlia. Little pom-poms, my Yankee Doodle Dandy that you guys know. These are the first dahlias I ever grew, and I grew from seed. Love them. But I've got all the little cuttings as well. So I've got a couple here and I've got some more there. It's obviously not as big and blousy as like the ones out front. And I have been nipping the buds out of these because I just want them to focus on getting strong. But yeah, they'll get there. It's lots of fun over with the GreenStalks this year. So we have had so many strawberries. I think we're probably at the last maybe 2-3 harvests now. Although Kate reminds me that every day I say, oh, that'll be the last of them, and then we get more. So I was out harvesting again yesterday and Kate's reaction was, oh God, not more strawberries. So last year, I said about the strawberries in GreenStalk last year that I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not. They were a bit smaller than usual. So this year I have really focused on making sure I'm watering properly and feeding, because that's the big thing. If they're in the beds, these beds have all been amended with beautiful new compost. Whereas they're in here, strawberries in my garden are perennial. They stay there all winter. I don't have to take them out, move them, replace them, anything like that. So, you know, it's probably been getting a bit tired. So I've been keeping on top of the feeding, and that means I've been getting huge, gorgeous strawberries. I'm well chuffed. To the point where I'm actually thinking next year I might not do any in the raised beds at all. I might just grow them in the GreenStalks. Now, one of the other things that's new this year is I've got a lot of things in my GreenStalk that are deliberately for tea. So you guys gave me loads of suggestions, and I've got different types of mints and basil and all that kind of thing to grow for teas deliberately. And I've also got some chamomile and even stevia. Now, it's all new to me. I've never done any of this stuff before. It's a bit of a trial to see how they grow, if they grow well in the GreenStalk. And let me tell you, yes, they grow fabulously, and I'm constantly having to be pruning to keep on top of it, or it's just a jungle. But it means I've always got lots of mints and stuff that I'm giving to friends and things. But yeah, the other thing then, let's talk about the tomatoes, because I'll show you what's going on here in the GreenStalk, and then I'll take you into the greenhouse. But you're going to have to come in close. I've got 5 tomato plants in the GreenStalk. And I've run into that thing that happens with me every year is I wrote the name tags for them in Sharpie, and they've all now faded. I do this every year, so I've put a pencil in the greenhouse to stop me doing that. But you can see the variety. So I've got some of these nice, decent sized slice and salad tomatoes. I've got some of the nice cherries. Now I know these are Anne-Marie Dewdrop. It's one of the ones I really love. It does great, and you can see it does that kind of sprawly thing. Then I've got some of these, which are my Mongolian hanging basket. And more here, look at these. So the bottom 3 tiers here, you can see, or I don't know how well you can see, but these are the Sutton, so dwarf broad bean. So I've just had my very first harvest of these. I've never grown broad beans before, so I'm completely relying on videos from people like Jessie at Plot 37, because she grows these a lot and she's shown some of her cooking of them. So I'm relying on her now. But I've got a tier that's my broad beans, and then above it I've got my dwarf French beans, so green beans. So I'm back to growing Sprite. They're my variety I've had the most success with, and that's there. And you can see I've got gaps so that I can put seeds in. So I've got plants at different stages. Okay, now above, you can't see for the strawberries here, but oh, it's all tied together, that's why. I've got these little miniature pea plants. That's half-pint peas. Now again, I tried them last year. I wasn't overly impressed, so I'm giving it another shot just to make sure it wasn't me. Because, you know, remember I mentioned about the strawberries? Yeah. So we'll see how all that goes. I'm quite excited. Okay. So we'll finish up in here. Now, pretty much the greenhouse is just peppers and tomatoes at this time of year. I don't really have space for much else, given how many peppers and tomatoes I grow. But one of the big things, we are harvesting tomatoes from the greenhouse every single day now. And it's really exciting. It's a change and it's a way for me to kind of see things and watch and learn more, because I'm only growing dwarf or micro tomatoes, as you can see. So what I am finding is these guys are producing every day. I'm getting small handfuls of tomatoes every day. I'm not getting those massive deluges that I used to get with the full-size plants. So we would always end up just making loads of sauces and things just to use up tomatoes. Not because that's how we wanted to use tomatoes. Whereas this time round, I'm just getting the amount we need for like lunches and sandwiches and salads and things every day. So I'm really quite pleased. But there was one thing I had to come in and do in here, because as you can see, I can't believe I'm going to say this because I still haven't done it after saying I was going to do it. I haven't put supports in place for the peppers yet. We actually did lose one entire branch of a pepper plant because the peppers, just the size of them and the weight of them, it just weighs the branches down, pulls it, and then the branch snaps. So I need to get that done this weekend. Bit of a boo sad thing, but it lets me tell you about something, because one of my pepper branches has actually snapped under its own weight. So I am just pruning that off so it doesn't cause further damage. But that then lets me tell you about something. Because last year I got asked, but I didn't actually get asked. Last year someone panicked when they saw me harvesting green peppers, because they thought you couldn't eat peppers until they were ripe. When in fact, you can eat peppers at any point. It's just that once they're ripe, the flavour changes a little bit. And some people prefer that. Because when a pepper's not 100% ripe yet, it's slightly more bitter. But when it's ripe, it's slightly sweeter. Obviously, I'm talking about bell peppers here. But the thing is, you don't have to wait till the pepper's red to eat them. And especially, it might not ever turn red. Not all bell peppers are red when they're ripe. You get different colours. So this plant, the peppers will be yellow. My King of the North, the peppers will be red. I've got Orange Horizon here. Obviously, these are all just about ripe. They're orange. You get lots of different colours. I have yet, however, to find peppers that are ripe and are green. I have seen a fake website claiming, but actually, no, I've never found actually one that's proven. But there you go. So, yes, it's sad and it's annoying because I should have put supports in place and I hadn't. So it's my own fault. But it just means that these will get chopped up for dinner tonight. Peppers. But I've got loads of gorgeous peppers and I'm loving having the different colours. So I have got these Orange Horizon peppers. And what happens is the first ones to appear are quite small, but as the plant matures, those peppers are getting bigger and I'm quite pleased. I've got my usual King of the North, which are green just now, but when they're ripe, they'll turn red. And you can see there's more Orange Horizon in there. And I've got some Cali Golden one, or Cali Gold Wonder, something like that. I can never remember the name, but these are the yellow bell peppers. So you can see I've got heaps and loads of choice. It's fabby, I'm quite excited. But everything is doing well. So there we go then. It's a quick whiz around what's going on in the garden just now. I'm bound to have missed something you wanted to see, so let me know, what did I miss? What is it you're after an update on? See you folks.